bringing you the very best music from film, television, and video games. This is the Cinematic Sound radio show on demand.
Hello, and welcome back to Cinematic Sound's Film Music Mix Special, celebrating the work of Bruce Broughton. Music from the game Heart of Darkness, just one of Bruce's finest scores. So last time we featured, well, so many gems, didn't we? And Bruce spoke in depth about their creation. So we continue pretty much where we left off. You'll hear music from Lost in Space, Tombstone, Roughing It, and much more, including some of his concert works. But let's begin with some of that wonderful music he wrote for the Disney theme parks. Welcome to Part 2's celebration of Bruce Broughton.
This is a Film Music Mix special. We're speaking with Bruce Broughton about some of his terrific scores, and we're back now with the Sinfonia of London and the the universally adored Tombstone. And this is quite a seminal sort of score for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. It's the way that happened was Jerry Goldsmith was supposed to do it. George Cosmatos was the director, and George and Jerry had a long association. Jerry had a long, close association with the producers, and he got busy. And I got the call, which was great. I always like being in the vicinity of Jerry.
Yeah.
And Jerry was always very nice to me. I mean, he was nice to me behind my back. He was nice to me to my face, and I admired him enormously. Of all the guys I knew, I still don't know anybody as crafty as he was. So the only thing was that I didn't know the people in Tombstone. And when I first saw the film, I saw only the first half. That's all they had ready. And they put temp music in from Silverado. Silverado couldn't be farther away from Tombstone than the moon from the sun, you know. And it made the movie look stupid. And I sat there looking at this picture thinking, oh my Lord, I don't want to do this. This is awful. This picture is just awful, you know. And the director, George, came out and he smiled and said, so what do you think about our music? And I said, George, I love your music. I hate it in this movie, you know. So I'd only seen half of it, and I thought, oh gosh, the last half has got to be as bad as this half. So I went home, and by this time, my music editor was working on the film. Of course, he was working on the film without the track. And he called me and says, you know, this is a pretty cool film. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, when you see it without that temp track, he said, I think it's going to be a good film. So I started to look at it differently. Once I got rid of the track and just looked at it as a movie, I thought, oh, yeah, this is different. But it's not Silverado. Where Silverado is very well thought out, very almost intellectual. I mean, it's so carefully written. This thing is cleverly written, and this has all the great lines, you know, from the last 20 years. And it has over-the-top performances. The good guys are bad guys. I mean, nobody's good in this movie. Everybody is out doing nefarious things, either with their girlfriends or cheating on their wives or making deals, you know, in the saloons. I mean, everything's going on. And then you have these huge performances, and it was like a hole that you couldn't fill. It was just great. I love stuff like that, you know. So there I was over in London. I had a contrabass sarrusophone and contrabass trombones and I mean huge brass. I mean, I just everything. I just put all that stuff in there, and it turned out like that.
It did. It sounds like it. Well, I mean, of course, there's so many good cues. Straight away, the main title obviously sets the tone, and we know what to expect. There's the OK Corral stuff, and then there's some really clever waltzes. Well, that's the finale, of course, is that, you know.
Well, you know what they did? The reason the waltz is there is because originally they had the Blue Danube. And the director said to me, we'd like to just put the Blue Danube in there. And I said, that's going to make it look really stupid. I said, I mean, I didn't say it that casually. I said it with much more respect. Because I did work with him once more. I said, if you want the waltz, that's okay because they're dancing. I said, let me do the waltz, but let me do it as part of the theme. So actually, it's their theme. It's the romance theme done as a waltz. But it's really funny. After all this stuff in the film, suddenly it turns into Tchaikovsky at the end. But yeah, I don't mind that. Why not?
No, it goes so well. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's hear some of the best moments from Tombstone. Music there from Baby's Day Out, which massive Fox film from John Hughes, and this was something which I believe I remember reading. I think this is one of your favourite scores. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is another movie I had a lot of fun in, and this movie I also followed Jerry. Jerry Goldsmith was supposed to do this again. Right. You know, so I got these two great jobs that Jerry couldn't do. I don't know that I ever returned the favor. Oh yes, I returned the favor to him many years earlier. I turned down something he took, and it turned out to be a really good movie, and he did a really good score on it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, Baby's Day Out. I thought Baby's Day Out was one of the funniest films I'd ever seen. I still think it's very funny.
It's like a sort of, I mean, you could call it like an oboe concerto or something. Or,
well, it's
so colourful.
I think it's a cute film. Apparently, a lot of other people don't share my interest in it, but I enjoyed the score. I enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed John Hughes. I enjoyed the director. Everything about it. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I mean, I would just laugh as I was writing the music. It was just funny to me. It was so silly, you know. Well, you know, I met Joe Mantegna many years later because we worked on a TV series together. And I met him at the Hollywood Bowl before a show. And I reminded him that though we hadn't met before, I was working on the series, and I said, also, I did a movie that you did. He said, oh, really? And I said, yes, Baby's Day Out. And he went very quiet.
Right,
he went very quiet.
Right, okay.
And I'm thinking, maybe he's not so happy with
it.
But I thought he was brilliant because it's so broad. It's like Bugs Bunny meets the Three Stooges. I mean, it's so broad. But it's maybe it's just American slapstick. I don't know. But I thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. And yes, I do enjoy the score.
Yeah, absolutely. Leading on then to Miracle on 34th Street, which I think was John Hughes connected to that.
That was also John Hughes.
Yeah, he was, and that's this is just almost a Christmas staple. I mean, obviously the film's on so much, but I know that it's performed in a lot of concerts all across the world because it's such. I mean, you're sort of referencing Joy to the World, but there's much more to it than that. Because I mean, that the courthouse scene, whenever everyone cheers, and the music is just so glorious.
It's another film that I like a lot. I like the score a lot, but I like the movie a lot. I watched it during Christmas. It's a very sweet movie.
One of the few good remakes.
Yeah, it is a good remake, and the original is really good too. And you can watch either one of them. They're very different, but I think the remake is very good. There was no downside for me in working with John Hughes because I liked his movies. I liked him. He was very smart. And he knew exactly what he wanted, and yet he gave you a long leash, to do what you're going to do. And if you do it well, great. If you didn't do it well, that was something else. But he liked these things, and I liked it, and we got on great. So those are two really happy memories, those two movies.
Now, for Shadow Conspiracy, we're going. You had done some thrillers before, Presidio and Narrow Margin, but Shadow Conspiracy was maybe slightly grander because you had a very patriotic, big theme for horns, and this was that fun? I mean, did you enjoy doing the kind of thriller genre more than others, or less? Or?
Shadow Conspiracy was the same director as Tombstone, George Cosmatos. So we had an association there, and George could be very demanding. Overall, I'm happy with the way all that turned out. I liked the way the theme worked out, and I liked the opportunity to be able to do it. It was a harder film to do because it had problems. It had problems in the construction of it, but yeah, in general, I do like those kinds of things, like Presidio or Narrow Margin, those things where I really get a chance to get out and do something. Because I grew up on Hawaii Five-0. and on the original Hawaii Five-0, this is now in the 70s, the sky was the limit. I mean, there were a bunch of guys working on Hawaii Five-0, and we were all trying to outdo each other. And it was very competitive, and we could do almost anything. I mean, the producers would take anything short of something that was accessibly unreasonable. I tried a cue one time that had vibes, marimba, and xylophone, and they were all playing together, and the producer turned to me at one point and he said, "Okay, now that's too much." I said, okay, I'll take it out. But up to that, we just, dramatically, we could just go for it, and it was a great training ground. So for films like Shadow Conspiracy, there are some times when you just have to go for it, and it's, that way I like it a lot. I like the theme.
And it's funny, isn't it, when you think today of thrillers, whether it be political or just a average thriller, there's never any strong kind of motif like there would have been, when you were doing it.
Well, Melody died about 15 years ago. Look, the styles are very different.
It's a shame, yeah.
And it's it's Hollywood. Hollywood is commercially driven. And when I say Hollywood, I'm including any movie that comes out of England or anywhere else. I mean, it's a commercial business. It's show business. It's not the art business. And because of that, it goes in waves and cycles and fads. And it does kind of go back and forth from one side to another. I mean, there was a period when there were only synthesizer scores. The orchestras were gone. There was a period, I remember years ago, when Jerry Goldsmith was looking around for television work because he couldn't find any film work. They didn't want what he did. A few years later, he was as busy as he'd ever been. Right now, we're in a period where the music is still emotionally cool, and it's not real melodic, but then, melody isn't very popular anywhere at the moment, certainly not in records. It's certainly not popular in the movies. I expect it'll return in some form or another, but...
So good stuff coming from Europe. The Spanish guys, who of course have invited you over for concerts, they really embrace that kind of melodic...
They do, I think some of the French do, the Italians always do.
Philippe Rombin.
And,
yeah.
Look, melody is the basis of music. Song is the basis of music, so it's not going to die.
No.
But sometimes it goes underground for a while. Sometimes you just have to sing your tune in your corner. But I was persuaded many years ago to work on my themes because, in fact, the story that was given to me was that years before there had been a very B movie that came out of Germany that had this theme that became Strangers in the Night. Well, I don't know what movie that was from, but Strangers in the Night, I know that song. Sinatra knew that song. It became an enormous hit. Henry Mancini could really spin a great... And Henry Mancini was a really fine dramatic writer, but he was a great melodic writer. So what's the downside? John Williams he's still around, and he's a fine dramatic writer. He can write a tune, And if you use someone like John Williams, when you hear a theme like Indiana Jones or Star Wars or any of those things, you know immediately what the movie is. The theme is so attached to the movie, so attached to the character of the movie, that it's an identifying billboard for the movie. So why wouldn't you do that? What's the downside in doing that? So that's my rant. I'll get my rant on your show.
we're going to actually now hear some music from True Women and Roughing It. And these are two projects which I think were for the same company. They're both for Hallmark, was it?
Yeah, I guess they were. Different producers. True Women was the same producer, Craig Anderson, as who did Oh Pioneers. Roughing It was Larry Levinson. They were both Hallmark. They were both recorded. They were my Americana shows recorded in London. And they're both scores that I like a lot. I think for different reasons. True Women just turned out well. I mean, I liked the show and I liked the music. It was very expansive and you know, and like I said, I had a really good association with Craig. Craig's a great guy. Roughing It, Charlie Martin Smith was the director, and Charlie and I hit it off great. Charlie's a really great guy, but I really liked the story a lot. I really thought the movie was fun, and it was easy to write because it was just so I don't want to say familiar. It was so friendly. That's what I really was.
Yes, nicely put. Yeah, specifically the piano interlude there. That's a lovely kind of melody.
Well, it's a very melodic score, and it's one where I call it my Dvorak score. People look at me and go, "What do you mean by that?" But I mean Dvorak's score in the sense that the New World Symphony is melodic and just is very tuneful. And when you hear the tunes, you go, "Oh, isn't that you know?" And I think of Roughing It like that. There are some moments in Roughing It that are just pretty, you know. And the film itself, it's a nice movie. It's a nice movie. So yeah, those are two nice associations too. Gee, I'm starting to feel good about all this stuff. This is great.
Two Women and Roughing It there, and to the other extreme, and I don't know, you might not want to talk about this, but Lost in Space, I know was a bit of a nightmare project for you.
No, no, it wasn't a nightmare.
Okay.
It
right.
was, I said to my wife, Belinda, who was my concertmaster on that, in fact, one of the nice associations with True Women was that I wrote it in her living room, because I convinced him to go to London. I really wanted to see Belinda before we got married, so that all worked out.
Oh, sweet.
But,
right, okay.
Yeah. But no, I was talking to her about it, and I said, I think this is going to be one of those jobs that's going to be a hard job until it's done. But it's not a bad job. It's a good job. It's a hard job. Because they only had 2.5 weeks for the score. There wasn't a lot of time to do anything. Just write it. Just get it done. The director, Steve Hopkins, is a very nice guy. He understood. He had his own problems trying to get the thing done. He had a lot of effects and things that he was trying to do. He would go by my house on the way to the airport. He would stop at my house. He would listen to what I was doing, make a few remarks, go to the airport, go to London. 2 days later, he'd come back, stop at my house, hear more music, and then the next day or 2 days, he'd stop at my house, go to London, come back. It was like that. And even when we got to the end, the score went fine. We had the score went fine. The really whatever problems we had on it were mostly problems of trying to get done. They were still trying to figure out where their scenes were going to go, but they were just mechanical problems. Aesthetically, it wasn't a problem, and he couldn't have been better. But we got on the dubbing stage, and the very last scene, when they go through the planet, he had asked for something very specific, and I had done it as well as I could to what he wanted. And he called me and he said, "This cue doesn't work." And I said, "Well, I tried to do it." And he said, "No. I said, "What you did exactly what I asked you to do. It just doesn't work. Now that we see the whole film in context, I said, "Okay, well, let's see if we can find something from somewhere else that we might be able to piece together." Well, we couldn't. So at the very end, I rewrote the piece, got on a plane, went to London, recorded it, came back that afternoon, and put it in the film, and that was it. It was exactly as I said. It was a hard job until it was over, but it was a good job. Mm-hmm. And now I look back on the score, and there's a lot of the score that I like a lot. I think that given how fast it was put together, there was a lot. I look for these films where there's something to write to.
Yeah.
Lost in Space had a lot to write to.
Yeah.
And so I had a good time. I had as good a time as I could have on it.
Well, the opening, French hornet theme is terrific, and then of course the launch cue is that's one of those kind of cues which I know many film music enthusiasts would always go to. I suppose probably the launch, Through the Planet, what you wrote for, and then the end title, or Will's Fanfare. There are loads of great highlights on that.
There are a lot of nice things, and I've used that Through the Planet. I think I used the original version. I used one of them. I've done that in concert because it works fine as a concert piece,
does,
and it has the theme in it and all that stuff. So no, there's no downside to doing that one. As I said, there were nice people to work with and had a nice film. So had a lot of things to write to. So it's good. And the hardest ones are one where the people aren't so easy to work with. That's always hard. But the worst one is where you have really nice people in a film that you just have no idea what to do. It's like trying to bring the dead to life. You just don't know what to do in this. Those are the hard ones.
Well, let's hear some of the best moments from Lost in Space. Space. Bruce Broughton once again with the Symphonia of London. And now, Last Flight Out, we're channeling some with a guitar, French horn. This is a lovely, lovely score. Very like a chamber work, you could call it, maybe. Yeah.
Well, Last Flight Out was my second Billy Graham movie. I don't know if you know that. It was also produced by Billy Graham. But this movie, unlike Presidio, actually I knew the people on it. I knew the director. And because Jerry Jameson and I had worked on projects many years before on television, and I really had sort of lost touch with Jerry. I saw him occasionally because our kids went to the same school, and he called me one day looking for a composer for his film. And I said, well, tell me about it. And he said it was a Billy Graham film. Well, I had good feelings about working with the Graham organization because they were very straight and all that stuff. So I thought, oh, that's not good. And knowing that it was Jerry who did it, it sounded like an interesting story. So I said, I'll take a look at it. Mm. Oh, really? Really? You know, yeah, sure. So that's how I did that. And if it sounds like a chamber score, essentially because it's practically entirely a synthesizer score. It has some live elements in it, mostly the guitar and all that stuff, but it's mostly because it was not a big budget score at all. They couldn't afford an orchestra. So that's basically a different kind of a score for me. It's not Lost in Space for sure.
No, it's not. And then before we hear some Last Flight Out, there's the Eloise stories. Now these didn't really come across the pond to us at all. It's more of an American thing, but they're such bright music. I mean, it's Eloise at the Plaza, Eloise at Christmas time, right. And I mean, clearly, listening to it, you had lots of fun doing that.
Yeah, well, this is almost a Disney connection in that Kevin Lima, who is the director of that, was one of the two directors in the Tarzan. He came from Disney. He was an animator, and he was one of the two directors in the animated Tarzan movie.
Okay.
So he did this Eloise stuff, and when I met him, he said, we were talking about the way to go on the film. And, Eloise is this sort of obnoxious little 6-year-old who runs through the Park Plaza Hotel, and the subject of a series of very well-known books over here by Kay Thompson. He said it very tentatively. It's kind of funny, because when guys start to talk about animation, they get very tentative when they talk about the composers. He said, well, I sort of think of this as Bugs Bunny at the Plaza. And I said, you want a cartoon-like score? He said, well, I want the animation, I want the energy, because she has lots of energy. I said, oh. I said, do you want me to do it like a cartoon? And he said, yeah. I said, great, that sounds like a lot of fun, So we wrote this little tune and put a lot of energy into it, because Eloise has a lot of energy. Yeah. Now, the Christmas show is a little bit different. The Christmas show has a little bit more heart. It's a little more, well, I wouldn't say it's serious, but it's a little bit more emotional. So some of that music, I relied a lot on my Tchaikovsky style, because I went into that intentionally knowing that Tchaikovsky means Christmas. Tchaikovsky and Handel mean Christmas, and I had versions of that and all that. So I use little bits of Tchaikovsky in that score, but it still has that same kind of energetic, thing. The opening of Eloise at Christmas time actually interpolates her theme with the Nutcracker Suite, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
And those, again, I love doing this kind of stuff. I love having the opportunity to do all these goofy things. Like, gee, what if I put my theme in that piece? What if I rewrote that piece so it's why not? Yeah, if I made this sound like an 18th century, thing, yeah, sure, let's why. You just have too much fun doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so we're nearing the end of the show, not the end full stop.
Yeah.
Bit dramatic. What will be interesting now to talk a little bit about so many other things you're involved in. We're going to hear shortly a couple of non-film works from you. Now you have a connection with ASCAP and also Hollywood in Vienna. You're the president for this wonderful, very lavish film music festival, and then the ASCAP is. Are you the president of ASCAP?
No. I'm a board member.
Sorry, board
ASCAP.
member.
Right.
Okay.
Paul Williams is the president of ASCAP.
So what do these big projects both entail for you?
Well, being on the ASCAP board is a matter of being very responsible. The ASCAP is a membership-owned performance right organization. It's one of 3 organizations in this country. Britain only has one, has PRS. We have 3. And ASCAP has on its board 12 writer members and 12 publishers. So it represents both the creators and the copyright owners of all the music. And so we're involved in licensing all the music that's played in radios, films, television, bars, symphonies, anywhere, radio. We try to make sure that that music is properly licensed so that the creators of the music and their copyright owners share in the licensing of it, as guaranteed through the Constitution, because copyright's guaranteed in the Constitution. And that's a big job because there are a lot of challenges, particularly now in a digital age, where there are all sorts of ways of being able to use music and get music for free and not have to pay for it, thinking that it doesn't really affect anybody. Well, it does. It affects a lot of people, and a lot of people use that money to live on. It's important money. So that's my ASCAP job. Hollywood in Vienna is a little bit more fun. Hollywood in Vienna, I've been there a couple of times. It's basically a new program that started about 5 or 6 years ago with the idea that you could make a case for Hollywood having begun in Vienna, in that Max Steiner and Korngold, the 2 big composers from the very beginning, both were born in Vienna. Yeah. So there's a woman over there, Sandra Tomek, who put this thing together thinking, well, why shouldn't Vienna be aware of this, as aware as they are of Schubert and Beethoven and all that? And when you go to Vienna, you really do sort of step into the past, because all of these guys, Schubert and Mozart and all these people, they're still very present in Vienna. I mean, people listen to the music, they like the music. The music is all over the place in Vienna. You can go to an opera every night of the week. The symphonies are there, and all this stuff is there. So, but Korngold and Steiner are not well represented in their hometown. So Sandra put together this thing. She has an excellent orchestra, and over the years has invited composers to come and be part of this, to be celebrated. John Barry, Lalo Schifrin was there last year. Yeah. Alan Silvestri was there 2 years ago.
I believe Horner's there this year.
Pardon me?
I believe James Horner's there this year.
Oh, is he this year?
Yeah.
David Newman is conducting the orchestra. David's a great film composer. Yeah. And part of that Newman family, And it's become really quite an event. I mean, the first year I was there, they had a really good audience for one night. Now they could do it if they could probably do 2 nights. I mean, they have an overflow audience and a lot of enthusiasm. Far and wide, but they have a spectacular orchestra. It's really a fun event. And then you're in Vienna. That's not bad either. But it's it's really a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to go to. There's that, and there's also throughout the world there are music festivals that open up. Like I think we talked before this began about in Spain, in Ubeda, where I've been a couple of times. They also have a big music event. They have them here and there, and this composer. They have one in Poland, that Jan Kaczmarek
that's right.
is in charge of. So they're all over the place, and it's amazing the number of people who are enthusiastic, if not crazed, about film music. I mean, you get some people who run the gamut, but one of the nice things about Spain is that, one, Spain's spectacular. It's a great country. The people are they're so nice, and they love the music, but they love it in a way that's not crazy fan love. It's very respectful, and,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's really great. So
Very emotional.
except that they start their concerts really late. That's the first year I was there, we started the concert at 10 o'clock at night because of the heat. And I didn't get on until 1:45. And the guys were all laughing. Oh yeah, Bruce, you'll get on around breakfast time, because the concert just goes and goes and goes and goes. But the people stay; they love it. It's just great.
The Hollywood in Vienna. Did you write a piece for them? It was sort of fanfare.
I wrote an opening fanfare based on Gone with the Wind, and then I do a lot of writing of concert works, particularly when I know they're going to get played. So if I get a commission from somebody who wants something as a solo, I'm usually interested in doing that. If it's an ensemble, I'm interested in doing that. The reason I like doing it is because writing film and TV music, you gain a huge technique because you're writing all the time. And like a lot of this music which we've been playing and talking about, there are many different styles and many different things that you learn to do. But it's all in the service of the film.
Yeah.
And the film, is basically accompaniment always, which is not a bad thing. It's just one of the things that you have to acknowledge. When you're writing a concert piece, there is no film. There's no pretty girl to look at or a handsome hero or anything like that. There's just the music. And you have to make the music interesting in itself. And there's really no ceiling on what you can do as a composer working on his own behalf or her own behalf. So I like doing that. So I've been doing a lot of works for solo instruments, for band, for orchestras, for whatever I can find. And it's really a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun. I still do. I'm just starting to work on an independent film, so I still do that. But the other one is just, I like it as much. And I've fortunately had a lot of recordings of some of the chamber works. They're maybe not as interesting to film people, but they're interesting to other people because in fact, I was in Sweden during the summer, and at a music school about 500 miles north of Stockholm, and a young girl in her 20s said, introduced herself. She said, "Oh, I just played your trio for flute, violin, and viola." I said, "Really? How'd you find out about?" And then I remembered it was recorded, and she had heard the recording, and she wanted it. So the music gets played. It gets played all over the place.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really great.
No, it's terrific. Well, obviously, we're thankful for it. And let's play out with the Hollywood in Vienna fanfare, and we'll play a selection from your San Francisco Bay Brass composition, which this was, I forget the principal horn's name. What's his name?
Well, Jonathan Ring is the the ringleader.
He was
Robert Ward, who is first horn in the San Francisco Symphony, is the first horn in this group. The Bay Brass is a group of brass and percussion players who are primarily made up of members of the San Francisco Symphony and I believe the opera or the ballet. And they're spectacular. We did a concert they performed a concert in the cathedral in San Francisco over Christmas, and asked if I would arrange this choral piece I had. It's sort of like a carol in Miracle on 34th Street for brass, which set just great. So, yeah, they're movie oriented as well. In fact, it's kind of funny when they asked for this particular piece. Jonathan said, we want a brass piece, we want a substantial piece, we want it to be a multi-movement thing, 20 minutes or so long. And we really liked the score to Tombstone. I said, what does that mean? I said, well, we really like the score to Tombstone. I said, oh, I know. You like the energy, you like the emotional quality, you like the fact that it's over the top. Yeah. I said, and you'd like bits of that. He said, wouldn't hurt. so that you should know that before you play the piece.
Okay, great. That's good to hear a bit of background. Well, let's play then some music from the Bay Brass CD and then the Hollywood in Vienna fanfare. Bruce Broughton, lovely to chat with you. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great talking to you. Enjoyed it.